Hey, how is everyone today? Okay, so if you've already read the blog, then you know that this is step 1 of 2 of preparing your images for online use. So step 1 is preparing the size of your images. Okay, so today we're going to do that with Photoshop and with Paint. And while I have Photoshop open on the screen right now, we're actually going to start with Paint. So let's head over there. Alright, so with Paint, there's one of 2 ways to do this as far as putting your image in. So the first one is you can drag and drop it, or you can do paste from and choose your location. Today we're going to be using our fisherman picture that I mentioned earlier in the blog and resizing that specifically for the web. So whether you're doing this for Facebook or Pinterest or whatever, all of these steps that I'm going to show you today are going to work for that. So the one I'm going to show you right now is how to prepare it for Facebook. Sorry. So what we're going to do is scale this actually to 1200 by 1200 pixels. So to do that, the first thing I'm going to do is resize this image because it is really big. If you look down here, it's about 5000 by 3000 pixels, which is way, way, way bigger than we need. So we're going to hit the resize button. That's over here by the select. Instead of doing percentage, we want pixels. For now, we are going to maintain that aspect ratio. So what you're going to do is actually choose the smallest of the 2 numbers. And the reason for that will make sense probably a little later on. But the reason you want to do this is so you get an equal sized picture. So if I do the right size, if I do 1200 here, when I resize this later, there's going to be a huge white gap on the vertical side of this that you're not going to want. So if you want a picture that fills up that whole area, you want to make sure that your smallest area, or your smallest proportion, is at that 1200. So right now it's going to be 1800 by 1200 pixels, which is fine. So hit OK. And I'm going to show you how to fix this so it ends up being that 1200 by 1200. So first thing we want to do is we want to make sure that it's selected. If for some reason this picture is not selected, you may have dragged it in from another window and that would make it not selected. Or when you resized it, you may have accidentally unselected it. So just go here and hit select all. And then here's what we're going to do. When I go over here, we've got all this white space for starters. So let's deselect by hitting that. So in order to get rid of all this white space, we're going to do this by dragging it all the way over. Here it is. We just want to bring that to the edge of that photo, which will be in that direction at 1800. And then down here, we're going to bring it up to 1200. Okay, and this you may have to play with just to get it just right. There you go. Alright, if for some reason when you did this the first time, it didn't have that white space, don't worry. Sometimes it doesn't do that. So in order to select it again, we're going to select all. Now here's why I want to do that. If you go down here, let me unselect for a minute by hitting escape. If you go down here and you bring this to 1200 pixels, you're going to find that you're right up against the edge of that boat when you bring it down in size. And visually, that's not going to be appealing to your reader's eyes. So we're going to Control-Z that because it gives them nothing to look past there. So, and your readers really need that, your readers and your viewers. So select all again. We're going to drag this over a little bit, and you want to watch that white space at the top so that it's just right. Check your white space at the bottom to make sure you didn't go too far up, and we didn't. And then we're going to hit either enter, which sometimes works and sometimes doesn't, or just click inside this box, or you can hit escape. And then we're going to come back over here and we're going to drag in the white space again. And we're going to bring that in to 1200 pixels, which you can see at the bottom of the screen there. And I'll show you where here in just one sec. There we go. So if you didn't notice, this is where you can see your pixels. So it's right down here at the bottom of the screen. That's how you want to keep track of it. When you're moving that in and out, that moves as well. Alright, so let's Control Z. So this is your final product, 1200 by 1200. And then to save this, just go to File and Save As. And I suggest for web use, saving it as a PNG picture. Most places will be able to recognize that. Photoshop and Canva will. So we're just going to save this as Facebook image 1 because we're going to make another one as well. So hit save. Alright, now let's go over to Photoshop and I'm going to show you how to do the exact same thing. Now this ends up being a lot easier to do in Photoshop. The other issue is in Paint, once this is done, I can't really move it around to get my edges back. I can move it, but then I end up with all this white space. Okay, so in Photoshop, you don't have that problem, so let me show you what I mean. Start with File, New. I've already got this set up for 1200 by 1200. If you need to change this, you just go in and type it, okay? I recommend having this at 72 pixels for web use, and setting this at RGB color mode, okay? Because it's going to be easier to view on a monitor, and it will turn out better. Also, I recommend having it set as transparent as opposed to white or a specific background color, unless, of course, you're just putting something in there that you want to have a background color. Hit OK. And then we're going to go over here and hit File, and you want to Place Embedded. And I am in a different file, so hold on one sec here. Alright, and then we're going to go over to Fisherman again. And it'll just place it right in there. Okay, so here's what you want to do to resize this, because we want it to be at that 1200 by 1200 range. So if you recall, height, as you can see here, is our lowest number. Again, this is what you want to change. So we're going to go to height. And even though it has a percentage, the great thing about Photoshop is that you can type in pixels. You just have to tell it it's pixels by typing PX. Okay? And that adjusts it equally all the way around. Well, it adjusts it equally all the way around if you hit this little link icon anyways. Alright, now click Check once everything is adjusted the way it's supposed to be. Now here's the cool thing about this. If you click on the 4 arrows that are all connected together, you can move this anywhere you want and you still have the full image. Okay, so it's not a flat image. It can move still. You still have both ends of it. Nothing goes away. You can also pick with something like this if you want it to be mostly towards the right of the, so we have these two fishermen, basically, is what I mean. And these are our focal point of the image. So you can choose if you want your focal point off to the right, off to the left, or if you want it centered. Okay, and some of this is just eyeing it to make sure, and I prefer it center actually. So we're going to go File, and basically what you're going to do here, because we're using this later, as it is, we're going to go to File, and we're going to hit Save. And then again, you're going to go down to PNG, and I want to save this as image 2. Okay, and then we'll click Save. And in this case, the compression, I want it to be the smallest and slow, or none. If you're putting this on the internet, you may want it to be fast. Actually, I am going to correct myself here. You would want it to be smallest and slow. And hit OK. And in our next video, you will have step 2 of 2, which will cover saving images for the web, preparing them for the web as far as changing their lighting, and maybe a quick kind of cutesy tutorial on how to fix up your images. So I will see you there.